day of Chodesh Shvat, and we have just started Maseches Pesachim, Perek Arvei Pesachim, which we began yesterday. And just to jump back into it, the Mishnah told us that there was a machlokes. The Mishnah told us that there is a din not to eat samach lemincha, close to mincha tam, on Erev Pesach or on Arvei Pesachim, and the Gemara had quoted a machlokes between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yosi. Rabbi Yosi says that in general, in Erev Shabbos and Erev Yantiv, you can eat throughout the day, no problem. Ad shetechshach. And Rabbi Yehuda was of the opinion that you are not allowed to eat mincha ulamala. From mincha tam and onwards. And then we saw a machlokas between Rav Huna and Rav Papa, how exactly to explain our Mishnah. Rav Huna says, no problem, our Mishnah is the opinion of Rabbi Yosi. Rabbi Yosi, who says that every Erev Shabbos and every Erev Yom Tov you can eat all day, but on Erev Pesach you would not be allowed to eat all day. You have to stop. You cannot eat from mincha samach lemincha and onwards. That was the opinion of Rabbi Yosi because of the chiyuv of matzah. And Rav Papa had told us that you could even say that this is the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda because there is a difference between samach lemincha and mincha tam. And then the Gemara quoted a brisa, the brisa that told us that according to Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yehuda tells us that you on lo yachol adam be'erev Shabbos v'yom tovim mitesha Shabbos v'mala, which means samach lemincha. You're not allowed to eat from 9 hours and on, which means that there is an equivalence between erev Pesach and every other erev Shabbos and every other erev Yom Tov, which means that this Mishnah and this brisa somehow or another are problematic. You have a brisa that tells us that Rabbi Yehuda is of the opinion that a person should not eat mitesha Shabbos malam, which means samach lemincha, and that's what the brisa says, and the Mishnah that says samach lemincha lo yachol adam ad shetechshach, which means, and this was the Gemara's conclusion here, in defense of Rav Papa's suggestion, Amar Sutra says, "Man leimalan de matratzehi," who says that this price is correct. Dilma mishabashti, maybe it is incorrect, and that is the top 3 words on Daf Kuf Amud Aleph. Maybe this brisa is in fact incorrect, and therefore the Gemara wants to say, okay, if this brisa is incorrect, so Rashi tells us, and it should have taught us from 9.5 hours and onwards, not from samach lemincha, but from mincha tam, and then we could comfortably say that Rabbi Yehuda is of the opinion that on Erev Pesach you don't eat from half an hour earlier than you would on every hour of the Erev Shabbos and Yom Tov. Problem with that, and this is what the Gemara introduces at the top of Kuf Amud Aleph, Amalei Marema ve'item Rav Yemar, says Marema, or perhaps Rav Yemar, Ana iklai lepirkei de Rav Pinchas beride Rav Ami. I once went to the shir of Rav Pinchas, the son of Rav Ami, v'kam tana v'tana kamei, and a tana means a person that knew they had bikis, the Shalom Eshev, that had the bikis in all of the brises and all of the Mishnayos, v'tana kamei, and he taught this brisa in front of him exactly this way. Mitesha Shabbos v'mala. V'kibla mine. And Rav Pinchas bereder Rav Ami accepted it from him. Meaning that this is in fact an authoritative brisa. It is a correct brisa. Yihachi kasha. If this is so, you have a big problem. Because now you have 2 versions of the brisa that are contradicting each other. And Rav Papa's suggestion of how the Mishnah is the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda doesn't make sense. Says the Gemara, so I guess Rav Papa's wrong. We have to conclude that this is the opinion of Rav Huna, meaning that the Mishnah is not representative of the opinion of Rabbi Yosi. The Mishnah is not the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. The Mishnah is exclusively the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, and that Rabbi Yosi is of the opinion that every Erev Shabbos and Erev Yom Tov, you have no issue of eating until it gets dark. Once it gets dark, you have to stop. No more eating after it gets dark. But on Erev Pesach, he agrees. He agrees with Rav Yehuda, with Rabbi Yehuda, that samach lemincha you have to stop eating. Good. Says the Gemara as follows: Ule Rav Huna minich, and according to Rav Huna, does it make sense? Meaning we still have an issue. Because Vahama Rabbi Yirmiyah, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, says Rabbi Yirmiyah in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, V'item Rabbi Abau, Amar Rabbi Yossi bar Rabbi Chanina. And some say it was Rabbi Abau, in the name of Rabbi Yossi, the son of Rabbi Chanina, who told us. And this is the key line here. Halacha ke Rabbi Yehuda be'erev haPesach. We passing like Rabbi Yehuda on Erev Pesach, ve'halacha ke Rabbi Yossi be'erev Shabbos. And we passing like Rabbi Yossi on Erev Shabbos. That's the psak. Now, here's the problem. Halacha ke Rabbi Yehuda be'erev Pesach. If you tell me that the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda on Erev Pesach, michlal de palig Rabbi Yossi betarvayu. It implies that Rabbi Yossi is going to disagree with him. Meaning, either you would say, everybody agrees that the halacha is on Erev Pesach that you don't eat samach lamincha. But if you tell me that the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda on Erev Pesach, it means that Rabbi Yossi is disagreeing with him on Erev Pesach as well. Which now means you can't tell me that on Erev Pesach, Rabbi Yossi is our opinion of the Mishnah that says samach lamincha, you are not allowed to eat. Says the Gemara, no, maybe that's not true. Maybe our assumption here when we say halacha, it doesn't mean to the exclusion of. Says the Gemara, halacha michlal de pligi behafsaka. When we say that halacha is, that we're going to see a number of answers to this question. Answer number one is, when we say the word halacha, that the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda on Erev Pesach, what that means is halacha michlal de pligi behafsaka. It means that they disagree with hafsaka about stopping the meal. But perhaps with regards to beginning the meal, they would both agree that there is an issur of beginning the meal on Erev Pesach Samach Lamincha. The Tanya, because we have a brisa that says as follows. And this is going to get us into the famous sugya of Peres Mapu Mekadesh. If you remember this year, Purim time, we had a Purim that was on an Erev Shabbos that went into Shabbos. And this past year, which meant you had all of the discussions about Peres Map and Mekadesh, when exactly to have the Purim Suda. Do you have it in the morning? Do you have it in the afternoon? Do you have it in the afternoon running into the Suda Shabbos later? And we're going to see all of the different shittas about the sugya between today's Amud and tomorrow's Amud. Says the Gemara as follows: Halacha michlal de pligi b'hafsaka. They disagree with stopping to eat. The Tanya, because the Brisa says as follows: Mafsikin leShabbosos. Div Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda is of the opinion that if you're in the middle of eating a meal and it gets to Shabbos, so you started the meal before Shabbos, you got to stop. You got to stop. Tosfos here points out, what does it mean to stop? Mafsikin leShabbosos. So the Tosfos says, perish be'akiris shulchan. It means that you lift up the table, meaning back in the old days, like we'll see a little bit later in the parak, where everybody would have like a little table, like a TV tray kind of thing next to them. That's what they would eat from. Everybody had their own little private table, and then the waiter would come and pick up the table, and off you go. You're lying on your couch, right? Well, to the left-hand side, right? And they would come, they would bring you your table, they would lift up the table. Akiras HaShulchan means they would lift up the table, because the Mucha B'Samach, like we're going to find out later. But what does it mean, halacha l'maaseh, for us, says the Tosfos? It means that you bench. As soon as Shabbos comes in, you got to bench. You can't keep eating, you have to bench now. Div Rabbi Yehuda, that is the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yossi says, Ein mafsikin, you don't have to stop the meal. What does it mean that you don't have to stop the meal? So the next Tosfos, Rabbi Yossi, Ein mafsikin, look at the beginning of the next Tosfos, says, V'gomer kol ha'suda, you finish the rest of the meal. Meaning you're in the middle of soup, so finish your meal. Keep on going for another 2 hours. And then umavarich birkas hamazon, and then you're gonna bench. You're gonna say birkas hamazon, and then at 9 o'clock that night, 10 o'clock that night, 12 o'clock at midnight, v'achar mekadesh. Then you'll make kiddush at the end of the meal. You're gonna make kiddush. Like we're gonna see the brisa later on, and we'll see all of the implications of this a little bit later. What the Tosfos discusses, we'll be able to understand all of that in better context in the next 2 dapim. So. That's the opinion of Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi says, you don't stop the meal. Don't stop. Just keep on going. You bench at the end, make kiddush at the end. Now the Gemara tells a story. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel. Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yossi. There was a story. It's questionable whether Rabbi Yehuda is in this in the brackets here or not, but okay. Maseches Rabbi Shimon Gamliel. Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yossi. Shayu Mesubim ba'Akko. They were sitting, they were eating a meal in Akko. V'kiddush alem hayom, and all of a sudden it becomes Shabbos, meaning they're having a lengthy meal. And they are there. They go. B'kiddush alem hayom. Amar le. So Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says to Rabbi Yossi. Amar Rabbi Shimon Gamliel to Rabbi Yossi. B'Rabbi, my Rebbe. The title of B'Rabbi Implies Zagad Ladar. The Rishonim said because it means Av and Rebbe. I mean, you drop the Aleph, so Av and Rebbe, my father, my teacher. It wasn't his father. Maybe saying it's a title of respect. Barabi, it's Sar HaTorah. Ritzoincha nafsik. V'necha shediv Rabbi Yehuda chavirenu. Should we stop and in deference to the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, our friend? Meaning they're in the middle of the meal, and it's an Erev Shabbos. And he says, should we stop the meal in deference to Rabbi Yehuda, our friend? Amara, he says to him, every day you pass it like me, instead of Rabbi Yehuda, meaning you hold like my sheet in general. You might tell me you hold like my sheet instead of the sheet of Rabbi Yehuda. And now, you are going to pass it like Rabbi Yehuda while I'm there? And then he quotes the pasuk from Megillah Esther, Are you really planning on taking the queen with me in the house, right? That's what Achashverosh says to Haman. You really plan on conquering the queen with me in the house? I mean, I'm here. What a bizarre to me. How could you do such a thing? Amarle says to him, Imken, if this is true, lo nafsik, we should not interrupt the meal. Shema yira tamidim, maybe the tamidim are going to see v'yikvu halacha l'daris, and they are going to then think that this is the halacha for all generations, meaning that we didn't do this in deference to Rabbi Yehuda, but they're going to think that this is taka how we should pass it. Amru, they said lo zazim misham, that they didn't move from there until they made the halacha like Rabbi Yossi that we are not going to stop in the middle of the meal. They paskin that the halacha is that on a regular Shabbos and Yantiv, not Erev Pesach, regular Shabbos and Yantiv, Paris Ma'apam Mekadesh. Well, we'll see that in a little bit later. That we'll see the Paris Ma'apam Mekadesh in a moment. But Ein Mafsikin. Ein Mafsikin means you finish the whole meal. You finish the whole meal and then you make Kiddush afterwards. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Shmuel. It says Rabbi Yehuda in the name of Shmuel. This is where we're going to see the Paris Mappa part. Ein halacha like Rabbi Yehuda, but like Rabbi Yossi. The halacha is not like Rabbi Yehuda, and the halacha is not like Rabbi Yossi. What exactly does that mean? How do you come off Shmuel? You're Amara saying the halacha is not like Rabbi Yehuda and it's not like Rabbi Yossi. We just said Lo Yisazim Shama Chikava halacha Rabbi Yossi. How does that make any sense? But what's his din? He says Ela Paris Mappa Mekadesh. Rather, the din is that you are Paris Mappa Umekadesh, that you, which means in the middle of the meal, you spread out a fresh tablecloth, you make Kiddush, and then you keep on eating, meaning you interrupt the meal to make Kiddush. And Be'ez Hashem Yisbarach, we will carry on with the challenge that is issued on this by Rav Tachlifa Bar Avdimi. We'll see that at the bottom of the Amud, Be'ez Hashem Yisbarach, tomorrow. And all of these very, very juicy sugyas, Hashem, looking forward to seeing everybody tomorrow and continuing with the sugya. Have a wonderful day and